GA4 and Google Analytics for and Google Search Console annotations currently. The old Universal Analytics used to, but GA4 doesn't for some reason. They've got rid of that feature. So when you do a website migration, launching a new website, whether that's changing the CMS, whether that's staying on the same CMS, or changing the domain, or anything really technically risky, which is a migration essentially. Um, Obviously, there's a huge element of technical risk there, so it's really important to monitor progress and monitor the core metrics for the website to make sure nothing's dipping too fast, and yeah, just check if any metrics have been really negatively affected. So one way of doing this, and this sort of ties into the annotations element that I mentioned earlier, is creating a one-off sort of migration report. I mean, if you've already got a Looker Studio report and you do have monthly reports, then you might want to just create a page onto that. But a one-off site migration report to see the impact of the migration, or if you're making big design changes, something like that. So here's one I made earlier. Just drag this across. So as you can see, what I've done to create this, by the way, is I've created a Google Sheet, really simple. Just move that across as well. Here, and just put date of the migration. So say the site launches on this date. Just added a category and the annotation new site launch just to keep it all logical. Then I've added this as a data source into Looker Studio. Then added in the GA4 as a data source and Search Console as a data source. So add in as many data sources as you like. But then what I've done is blended the data. So I've blended this Google Sheet, which contains the new site launch date category and this annotation, as mentioned, with the GA4 data and the Search Console data. And then I've created time series charts for essentially all the top metrics. I've just done a few different ones here, and it's just using my site as an example, which has not been through a migration, and it doesn't have revenue set up, so it's not an e-commerce site or anything like that. And it's not set. I've not like set up a revenue for inquiries equivalent for service sites as well. But what I have done is blended the data. So you can see on these time series charts now, the new site launch, according to this, occurred on the 7th of December. So we can really start to see how the data has been affected for each different metric. So for page views, has it gone up or down since then? Sessions, bounce rate, you can see the annotation there. Impressions, how's that been affected? How many landing pages are appearing on Google? This will be revenue as well, so we could be able to see if that's gone up or down. And then click-through rate. We can clearly see since the migrations happened, how's it affected the data? And I've just added a date control here as well, so we can see it more granularly. So like from that week or the entire year, so I could do this year to date, apply. You won't see the line as well, or at all, because it's too small. I'll do this quarter to date. So there you go. That's a bit more expansive, so it goes back to October. You can really start to see how it's affected it compared to what's the average number of impressions you can start to see from here. It's like 800 since the migration. It's dipped a little bit, but that could be seasonality and stuff like that. It's fake migration that's not happened. And then we can even do, so we know the migrations happen on the 7th. If we just do this month today, how's it affected? Views, sessions, impressions, bounce rate, revenue, landing pages appearing, CTR, we could do average position, number of queries, can add in a ton of different metrics, fully customizable Looker Studio in them, well, for the main part. But this is a report, and what I do, set this report up before the migration happens, create the Google Sheet, add in when the new site launch has happened, or is going to happen. If it's a concrete date, obviously you can change it on the sheet and then refresh the data if that does happen. If there are any sort of elements of the site launch, so you might go, right, so there's new site launch there. I mean, a, a week sort of before then, we made a few technical changes. So just put like technical, fixed, broken, 4 or 4 pages before the site launch. So that's updated there. So if I just go to more options, refresh data, yeah, you can see on the first, there's now a fixed broken 4 or 4 pages annotation there as well. And to see these, I've just had a quick table in with this Google Sheet. So yeah, that's how I'd monitor progress with a new site launch. If you need any help setting this up, get in touch with me, like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. And another sort of good tip is once this report's been set up, pre-launch, presumably, if the launch date is pretty concrete, then we can set it up, schedule delivery. So we'd send this to maybe the C-suite. So this goes to the C-suite every day um, after the site launch, and then they'll just get a quick report emailed into their inbox at 8 a.m. every morning, and they can check that thoroughly every morning to see how it's affected. And then obviously, say after a month and the data is looking steady, we can turn the notifications off or change them to weekly so they're a little bit less frequent. But yeah, it's a bit of a better top level way of doing things, I feel like, rather than going into Search Console every day and manually having to go into GA4 every day, so you know each different page is affected, all that sort of stuff. But you can see at a top level here, I mean, obviously, organic revenues, are probably the biggest one. If that's had a massive drop one day, so you've got 8 a.m., you won't miss anything really. 8 a.m., you see organic revenues dropped. Right, now we'll investigate it rather than having to investigate it every day.